You make bad decisions and don't know it. 18 ways to get back on track today. Making the right decisions is a key skill for moving forward in both personal and professional life. Below, you'll discover 18 strategies that will help you make more effective choices. You can try them all or stick with the ones that work best for you. The important thing is to experiment and find out which methods are most effective for you. Strategy number 1. Define the outcome you want to achieve. The goals you set should be your own, not imposed by others. They also need to be realistic and make logical sense. When you're clear about the result you expect, you can better choose where to invest your energy, identify the necessary resources, and take more coherent actions. Your objectives should be aligned with your values. Imagine the result you want to achieve and picture yourself in the future having accomplished it. That image will give you the motivation you need. Mentally replay that successful scenario every day. This will help you give your best at every step along the way. Ask yourself these key questions. Why do you really want this? What are you willing to sacrifice to achieve it? Is the price you'll pay consistent with your values? For example, if your goal is to build a professional career and you know it will involve working 12-hour days, ask yourself if you're willing to give up time with your family. Does that reflect your personal priorities and values? Strategy number 2, reduce the fear of taking risks. Have you ever asked yourself why you sometimes delay making a decision? In many cases, it's due to the fear of losing something, time, money, relationships, or even a dream. Sometimes, we're afraid that if we pursue our dream, it might shatter into pieces when faced with reality. But if you know the decision is necessary and that not deciding could have worse consequences than making a mistake, try the following. Imagine you don't like the school your child is attending, and you have to decide whether to change it. You're afraid the new school won't meet your expectations either. Instead of thinking in terms of whether it will be good or bad, analyze what you might gain and what you might lose. If you do nothing, your child will remain in an environment with a low academic level and difficulty connecting with others. But if you visit other schools, talk to other parents, and make a well-informed decision, the risk of making a mistake is reduced. And even if you do make a mistake, you'll have gained experience and will be better prepared to make a wiser decision in the future. Plus, you'll know you did everything possible to improve the situation. The key is understanding that you can gain much more than you might lose. And something important. Personally, I don't agree with the idea that changing a child's school is more traumatic than leaving them in an unsuitable environment. Showing them that you don't have to settle for what isn't working teaches them not to fear change in their adult life. So evaluate all your options by considering both their positive and negative consequences. Also include the scenario of doing nothing at all. Strategy number 3, limit the impact of negative news. The media tends to exaggerate, create fear, and stir up our emotions. If you notice that the content you're consuming fills you with pessimism, anxiety, or negativity, it's time to limit its influence. The same applies to people who have a negative effect on you. This doesn't mean you should become blindly optimistic. As we've already mentioned, it's vital to assess all possible alternatives, including the most unfavorable ones. But don't allow an overload of alarming information to cloud your ability to make rational decisions. Strategy number 4, use the decision-making quadrant. This visual technique allows you to analyze a situation from all angles. Take a sheet of paper and divide it into 4 parts. Answer each of the following questions. What will happen if this happens? What will happen if this doesn't happen? What won't happen if this happens? What won't happen if this doesn't happen? Use this method for each possible decision in a specific situation. This tool will help you clearly see the pros and cons and make decisions with greater confidence. Strategy number 5, learn to distinguish between important and unimportant decisions. An essential strategy for making better decisions is distinguishing between what is urgent and what is important. Not everything that demands immediate attention has a real long-term impact. Important decisions are those that significantly affect your life, especially over the long term. Urgent decisions, on the other hand, require immediate resolution, and postponing them can increase the cost in time or effort. Make a list of all your pending decisions. Then, divide another sheet of paper into 4 quadrants. Urgent and important. Important, but not urgent. Neither urgent nor important. urgent but not important. Place each decision in its corresponding quadrant. For example, preparing a presentation for tomorrow is both urgent and important. Choosing which gym to sign up for is important, but not urgent. Mark the decisions that involve spending money. For each one, set a deadline for taking action. Strategy number 6. Limit the time you spend making decisions. No one can predict the future, and there's always a chance of making mistakes, no matter how well you analyze a situation. If you notice that you're delaying a decision, set a time limit. This will force you to focus only on what's essential and make decisions more quickly. This habit is useful for both important and trivial decisions. For example, don't spend more than 3 minutes deciding what to make for dinner. Do the same with all those everyday decisions that don't have a major impact. Strategy number 7. Reduce the number of options. Although having many alternatives might seem like a good thing, too many choices can often overwhelm us. This is especially common when choosing investment tools, for instance. If you're a beginner, it's best to stick with the most stable and low-risk options. When facing decisions with many possibilities, make a list and compare it with your personal values and goals. Do these options align with your life vision? Are they relevant at this moment? Eliminate overly complex alternatives. Simple is often more effective. The fewer options you have to analyze, the easier it will be to make the right decision. Strategy number 8. Evaluate risks and benefits. This strategy applies when you have to decide whether to do something or not. For example, should you buy a new phone or not? Move to another country or stay where you are? Let's say a new phone model has just been released and is being promoted everywhere. You're satisfied with your current one, but you're considering it. So write down the pros and cons.
Pros.
It will be faster, 1 point, since your current phone already works well. Better battery life, 1 point. You don't have issues with the current one. More modern design, 1 point. Total pros, 3 points.
Cons.
Significant expense, 3 points. It will also be outdated in a year, 3 points. Time needed to transfer data and set it up, 1 point. Total cons, 7 points. Result, it's not worth buying. The losses outweigh the benefits. This method only works if there's a clear choice between doing something or not. For it to be useful, analyze all the benefits and drawbacks objectively. Avoid combining several arguments into one. For example, don't say, anxiety due to high risk of losing money. That's actually 2 points, constant anxiety and high risk of loss. Keep in mind that the score you assign to each point is personal. What works for you might not work for others. Strategy number 9. Create your own list of criteria. Each area of your life requires a different set of criteria for decision-making. At work or in business, you'll need one kind of list, for personal development another, and for your private life, a different one. It's important that these criteria align with your medium and long-term goals, your personal values, and your current situation. Include closed-ended questions that can be answered with a simple yes or no. If a key question gets a no, there's no need to analyze further. For example, if you're thinking about studying a new degree program, ask yourself, how long will it take? How much will it cost? Will I be able to combine it with my job? If the last answer is no, you probably won't be able to afford the training, so it's not worth continuing the evaluation. This strategy has a major advantage. Once you create your criteria, you can reuse them many times. For example, if you have a business and a friend asks you for a job but doesn't meet the minimum criteria, you can say no, even if she's your friend. The key question is, will she bring value to the company? If the answer is no, the decision is clear. Strategy number 10. Let go of past mistakes. When we make a decision, we go through a mental process that convinces us we've made the right choice. This conviction makes it hard to change direction, even when things aren't going well. We often continue down the wrong path simply because we once chose it, even when it no longer makes sense. Before reaffirming a decision, ask yourself if you're doing it out of pride. Maybe you're sticking with it just so you don't contradict what you said in the past or to avoid admitting a mistake. For example, if you invested in a company stock a while ago and have been waiting for years for returns that never come, maybe it's time to sell. The same goes for a business that isn't working. Opening a coffee shop in a poor location might lead you to operate without profit or even at a loss. Imagine that your past decisions don't bind you to anything in the present. Have the courage to change course. Every decision you make should have a feedback mechanism that allows you to assess the results. If they don't meet your expectations, make adjustments based on the current situation. Strategy number 11. Filter the information you consume. We live in a world overloaded with data. Nowadays, rather than seeking information, we often need to protect ourselves from it. Excessive informational stimuli can overwhelm your mind, making it incapable of processing or remembering what's essential. To avoid this overload, analyze which information sources you use and how much time you spend on them. Evaluate whether the information you receive aligns with your goals, values, and personal priorities. Of course, entertainment content has its place, but it's essential to critically review how much time you spend consuming information and the quality of your sources. You might be devoting too much attention to content that isn't very relevant, when you could instead focus on more reliable and valuable media. Additionally, some content offers no benefit and may even negatively impact your mood. For example, many sensationalist news stories or social media accounts showcasing luxurious lifestyles can make you feel bad about yourself. This also applies to your social environment. Try to reduce interactions that create emotional strain or add no value to your life. By freeing your mind from unnecessary thoughts and worries, you'll be able to make clearer, more effective decisions in your daily life. Strategy number 12. Use cognitive models to make better decisions. When starting a new project, you can either begin by planning every step, or you can anticipate potential problems before they arise. For example, if you decide to invest in stocks, one option is to look for companies that are currently rising. Another option is to analyze those whose value is falling to understand what went wrong and learn from it. After all, someone also invested in those companies. A very useful technique is second-order thinking, which invites you to consider the deeper consequences of your actions. For instance, what could happen if you hit someone on the street? The immediate consequences might be that the person hits you back or calls the police. But second-order analysis reveals that if a report is filed, you'll face legal trouble. And in the third order, those legal problems could affect your job or financial situation, even leading to losing your home if you can't pay the mortgage. This way of thinking, anticipating a chain of consequences, helps you make more responsible and sustainable decisions. Strategy number 13. Do your decisions truly reflect your values? A powerful tool for making better decisions is making sure they align with your personal values. To do this, you need to create a list of your values, ranking them from most important to least. Although many of us think we act according to solid principles, the truth is that without consciously reflecting on them, it's easy to prioritize things that deep down aren't truly important to you. For example, if you place health as your top value, then when you feel unwell, you choose to stay home and rest instead of going to work. Or if your child is sick, you decide to prioritize their physical well-being, even if that means they won't learn anything new at school that day. In my case, for example, my highest value is health, followed by family, and in third place, finances. This means that if I'm presented with the option between a high-paying job that doesn't allow me to see my loved ones and one with a more modest salary but more free time, I'll choose the second. Sometimes, we're forced to make decisions that contradict our values. In those cases, you'll know it by the bitter aftertaste that remains. That uncomfortable feeling is a clear sign that you haven't been true to yourself. Strategy number 14. Surround yourself with an environment that encourages good decisions. One of the most effective strategies is to create an environment that makes it easier to make the right choices. This applies to both your personal and professional life. For example, if you don't have unhealthy products in your home and need to go out to buy them, you're much more likely to go for healthier options that you already have on hand. Simple, but very powerful. The same goes for your social circle. If you surround yourself with people who invest in their personal growth, who are constantly learning, and who avoid harmful habits, you'll most likely adopt those behaviors too. Your environment has a huge influence on your daily choices. Consciously design an environment that aligns with your values and long-term goals. The quality of your decisions will improve without you having to force it. Strategy number 15. Go for the good enough solution. The principle of reasonable sufficiency is about knowing when something is good enough, without wearing yourself out chasing the perfect option. Here's an example. I know a man who spent 2 years looking for the best possible smartphone for a specific amount of money. He got excited every time the price of older models dropped. He checked prices almost daily. In the end, the time he spent on that search was so extensive that the real cost of the phone was much higher, because instead of using that time to work or rest, he wasted it comparing models. Perfection, in this case, turned out to be very expensive. Sometimes, good enough is the smartest choice you can make. Strategy number 16. Trust your intuition when you already have experience. Although logic and reason should always be present in decision-making, there's something called expert intuition. If you've already faced similar situations before, you've likely developed a kind of knowledge that doesn't always go through conscious thought, but can be just as reliable. What many people call a sixth sense. When you feel that strong, clear gut feeling and you have experience in the subject, pay attention. Your intuition might be telling you something your logic hasn't yet processed. Strategy number 17. The 3 decisions rule. When you need to make an important decision but the present moment feels confusing or emotionally charged, apply the rule of the 3 decisions. It's very simple and extremely useful. Think about how you'll feel about that decision in 10 minutes. Then imagine how it will affect you in 10 months. And finally, ask yourself what you'll think of that decision in 10 years. This method pulls you out of the urgency of the now and helps you gain perspective. There are situations where the strategy is essential to avoid impulsive decisions you might regret later. Strategy number 18. Don't be afraid to ask for advice. Making important decisions doesn't always mean having all the data or consulting only with experts. While we've already talked about the importance of relying on verified information and professional opinions, there are situations where the most decisive advice can come from someone who isn't an expert on the subject. Sometimes, that non-specialist person has the unique advantage of seeing your situation from the outside, unburdened by technical jargon or emotional involvement. This allows them to offer you a clearer, more direct perspective, which is often extremely helpful. The value of the one who doesn't know, but observes. You've probably experienced something similar to this stranger effect. It's that phenomenon where you find it surprisingly easy to share your problems with someone you don't know well, and to your surprise, their comment or advice turns out to be more useful than that of people close to you. Why does this happen? Because someone who's emotionally distant can be more neutral, more honest, and less influenced by your beliefs or expectations. They're not trying to please you, they're simply sharing what they see. That's why you shouldn't hesitate to ask for advice, even from those who aren't professionals. Their outside perspective might be exactly what you need to unlock your thinking and make the best possible decision. Believe it or not, your life is the direct result of the decisions you make every day. Some are small and nearly automatic, like what to eat for breakfast or what to wear, but others have long-lasting impact. Changing jobs, getting married, choosing your child's school. What's interesting is that most of our decisions are made on an emotional or intuitive level, even the ones that seem rational. And while there's nothing wrong with feeling, when it comes to important decisions, it's essential to lean on logic and your personal values. Your values are like an inner compass. If you let them guide you, it's easier to feel confident about your choices, even when things don't turn out the way you hoped, because you know you chose what aligned with who you are. Also, every decision comes at a cost. When you choose one thing, you're giving up another. That's the essence of the price of choice. If you choose to eat healthy, you give up certain momentary pleasures. If you choose to follow your passion, you might give up financial stability for a while. And that's okay. Understanding these trade-offs allows you to decide more consciously and more wisely. So, remember, white heavy checkmark, take your emotions into account. White heavy checkmark, evaluate with logic. White heavy checkmark, listen to your values. White heavy checkmark, and accept the cost of your decisions. Only then can you truly say you're making the best decisions for yourself. Subscribe to the channel, where I share practical strategies, deep reflections, and book summaries that will transform how you think and act. See you in the next video.